All right, so today we're diving into the presidency of William McKinley, the 25th US president. It's a fascinating story, really. It's all about how a nation that was totally focused on its own economy was suddenly and permanently thrown onto the world stage.
And that brings us to the big question we're tackling here. How in the world did a president who won the White House promising economic stability end up building an American empire? I mean, it's a huge pivot, and it's what completely defined his legacy.
And if you look at this timeline, you can really see just how dramatic that shift was. He gets elected in 96, laser focused on the economy. Then, bam, just 2 years later, he's leading the country into the Spanish-American War. By 1900, he finally locks in his economic plan, but only a year after that, his presidency is cut short. Talk about a whirlwind of change in just 5 years.
So let's start where McKinley started, with a promise of prosperity. You have to remember, his entire campaign was built around this one idea of bringing stability and growth to an America that was industrializing like crazy, and, well, it was pretty chaotic. See, to a lot of voters, McKinley was this steady, trusted guy. He was a Civil War veteran, he'd been a congressman, and he was the governor of Ohio. So when he ran in 96 against William Jennings Bryan, it was all about one thing: getting the economy back on solid ground. In a time of massive change, he was the face of strength and stability. Okay, so the absolute bedrock of his economic plan, the gold standard. Now, the idea sounds simple enough, right? Every single US dollar was backed by a real physical amount of gold that the government held. The whole point was to create rock-solid stability. But wow, was this thing divisive? And this is where you can really see the two different Americas at the time. So you've got one side, business leaders, a lot of industrial workers who saw gold as the key to a stable, predictable economy. That meant reliable investments and hopefully steady wages. And then on the other side, you had farmers and other laborers who wanted to base the currency on silver. They figured it would put more money out there and make it way easier to pay off their huge debts. And you know what? McKinley delivered. He passed the Dingley Tariff, which was designed to protect American businesses from foreign competition. And then, in 1900, he signed the Gold Standard Act, making it official. For a little while there, it really looked like his entire presidency was going to be about just that: domestic policy. But then something completely unexpected happened. One single massive event just flips the script, and suddenly America's focus shifts from its own wallet to the entire world. So picture this. It's February 1898. The U.S. battleship the Maine is sitting in Havana Harbor, Cuba. It's there to protect American interests while Cuba is fighting for independence from Spain. And then it just explodes. From that moment on, the path to war was incredibly fast. I mean, unbelievably fast. You've got over 260 American sailors dead, and the yellow press, the newspapers of the day, they just go wild, immediately blaming Spain. Headlines are screaming, "Remember the Maine." The public pressure was immense. McKinley asks Congress for the authority to intervene, and just a few weeks later, America is at war with Spain. The war itself, it was over in just a few months. One official famously called it a splendid little war. And this table here, from the Treaty of Paris, it lays out the results. All of a sudden, the United States is a colonial power. Puerto Rico and Guam are handed over. The Philippines are bought for $20 million. And Cuba, while it's technically independent, is still under heavy US control. Just like that, America had an empire. It happened like overnight. But this huge victory, it created this massive identity crisis for the country. For the very first time, America had to look in the mirror and ask a really tough question. What kind of nation were we actually becoming? Did this fit with the country's founding ideals at all? And the country was completely split on this. On one hand, you had the pro-expansion folks. They saw it as America's duty to civilize these new places. But they also saw a huge opportunity for new markets and for the US to become a real global power. But then the anti-imperialists were saying, whoa, hold on, this is a total betrayal of everything America is supposed to stand for. How can a nation that was born fighting an empire now have one of its own? And this wasn't some fringe idea. This belief that taking over other countries violated America's core principles was held by some of the most famous people of the era. The writer Mark Twain, for instance, he didn't mince words at all. He said, "I have seen that we do not intend to free, but to subjugate the people of the Philippines. We have gone there to conquer, not to redeem." That's a powerful criticism of this new direction in American foreign policy. So McKinley wins re-election in 1900, right? And his victory is pretty much seen as a stamp of approval from the public for everything he'd done, at home and abroad. But his second term and his life were about to come to this sudden, tragic end, really cementing the start of a whole new era for America. So here's what happened. On September 6th, 1901, McKinley's at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, greeting the public, when he's shot by an anarchist. He actually clung to life for a while, but in the end, he couldn't recover from his wounds. And that number you see, 14, that's how many days passed from the shooting until he died, on September 14th, bringing his presidency to a tragic close. You know, his death wasn't just a personal tragedy. It was really the symbolic end of an entire era. The Gilded Age, this period of huge industrial growth and all those fierce debates about gold and silver, it basically died right there with him. And just as it marked an end, his death also marked a brand new beginning, because his vice president, this young, energetic hero from the Spanish-American War, a guy named Theodore Roosevelt, he takes the oath of office. And that one moment kicks off the progressive era, a new period of reform and an even more aggressive American presence on the world stage. And so here we are, right back where we started. A president who was elected to fix the economy ends up becoming the architect of an American empire. McKinley's choices, whether he wanted to make them or not, definitely put America on the world stage. The question his legacy really leaves for us is, when you look back at the entire 20th century that followed, did he make the right call?